Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance, watching the stars through the main view screen. The massive ship cut through space like a knife through water, its engines humming with power. Jake had been in command for 2 years now, and he still felt proud every time he looked at his crew working at their stations. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of computers and the low voices of his officers. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at the communication station, her fingers dancing across the controls as she monitored radio signals from across the galaxy. Captain Ryan Torres was visiting from his own ship, the USS Reaper, which flew alongside them. Information. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange," Amy said, her voice cutting through the peaceful atmosphere. She pressed her earpiece closer and frowned. "It's coming from the Kepler system. Very faint, but it's definitely a distress signal." Jake walked over to her station, his boots clicking on the metal floor. "Can you clean it up?" Amy worked her magic with the radio equipment. The static slowly cleared, and a voice came through the speakers. It was not human. The words were translated by the ship's computer, but the fear in the voice was clear even through the electronic sounds. "This is Kepler Mining Station 7. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. The Fourth Empire has invaded our space. They have destroyed Kepler 4 and Kepler 9. Millions are dead. Our defenses cannot hold them. We need help. Anyone who can hear this message, please help us." The bridge fell silent. Jake felt his stomach drop. The Kepler Consortium had been Earth's first real alien friends. 3 years ago, when humanity had just started exploring beyond their own solar system, the Keplerian people had welcomed them with open arms. They were peaceful traders who had helped Earth learn about galactic politics and commerce. "Keep listening," Jake ordered. "Record everything." More messages came through over the next hour. Each one was worse than the last. The Fourth Empire was moving through Keplerian space like a plague, destroying everything in their path. Their ships were huge and powerful, and they showed no mercy to civilians. Captain Torres shook his head. "I've heard of the Fourth before. They're bad news. They've been conquering worlds for centuries. They think every other species is weak and worthless." "How many ships do they have?" Jake asked. "Nobody knows for sure. Maybe hundreds. Maybe thousands. They control a big chunk of space on the other side of the galaxy." Jake made a decision. "Amy, get me a direct line to Admiral Bennett at New Horizon Station. Priority 1. Within minutes, Admiral Lisa Bennett's face appeared on the main screen. She was a tough woman in her 50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been in charge of Earth's Space Navy since the beginning. "Jake, I've been monitoring the same signals. This is bad." "Yes, ma'am. What are our orders?" "Get to New Horizon as fast as you can. I'm calling an emergency meeting. Bring Torres with you." The USS Vengeance and USS Reaper changed course immediately, their engines pushing them toward the massive space station that orbited Earth. New Horizon was humanity's pride and joy. A city in space that housed millions of people and served as the headquarters for Earth's growing space fleet. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in the station's main conference room. Admiral Bennett sat at the head of the table, looking grim. Captain Helen Wade was there too, having just arrived from her patrol route in the USS Stormbreaker. The room's large windows showed Earth spinning slowly below them, blue and green and peaceful. But the peace was about to be broken. A side door opened, and in walked the strangest creature Jake had ever seen. It was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Its body reflected the lights in the room, creating rainbow patterns on the walls. This was Zithkar, the Keplerian ambassador to Earth. "Honored humans," Zithkar said, its voice sounding like wind chimes in a breeze. "My people are dying. The Fourth Empire has come to our worlds with fire and death. They have already destroyed 2 of our colonies. 8 billion of my people are dead. The room was silent. Jake felt anger building in his chest. 8 billion people. That was more than the entire population of Earth. What do they want? Admiral Bennett asked. Everything, Zithkar replied. The Vorth believe that only they deserve to live among the stars. They see all other species as insects to be crushed. They have done this to dozens of civilizations. They will not stop until they own everything. Captain Wade leaned forward. What about the other galactic powers? Surely someone can help you. Zithkar's crystal body seemed to dim. The others are afraid. The Vorth Empire is too strong. Most civilizations surrender without a fight when the Vorth arrive. Those who resist are destroyed completely. And they're coming for us next? Jake asked. Eventually, yes. The Vorth have already marked Earth as a target. They call you Deathworlders because your planet is so dangerous. They think you are savages who got lucky with technology. Admiral Bennett stood up and walked to the window. Earth turned slowly. Below them, looking so small and fragile. How long do the Keplerian worlds have? Days, maybe weeks. Our capital system is making a last stand, but we cannot hold them forever. The room fell quiet again. Jake could hear the air recycling systems humming in the walls. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Earth had treaties with the Kepler Consortium. They had trading agreements and friendship pacts. But more than that, the Keplerian people had been kind to humanity when they were new to the galaxy. Admiral Bennett turned back to the table. How many ships can we field? Captain Torres checked his tablet. The Third Fleet is fully operational. 8 ships, including the Vengeance, Reaper, and Stormbreaker. We have about 3,000 crew members total. Against how many Vorth ships? Zithkar's body flickered with sad colors. Our scouts report at least 16 major warships in the final assault group. Each one is larger than your biggest ship. The odds were terrible. Earth's fleet was new and untested. They had never fought a real war against another species. The Vorth Empire had been conquering worlds for centuries. But Jake looked around the table and saw the same determination in every face. These were humans. They didn't abandon their friends. Admiral Bennett made the decision for all of them. We're going to help. The Third Fleet will deploy immediately to Keplerian space. We'll show these Vorth what happens when they mess with Earth's allies. Captain Wade smiled grimly. It's been a while since we had a good fight. This won't be like the training exercises, Admiral Bennett warned. The Vorth are experienced warriors. They've destroyed civilizations that were older and more advanced than us. Jake stood up. Maybe they've never fought Deathworlders before. The meeting broke up quickly after that. There was too much to do and too little time. Jake returned to the USS Vengeance and immediately began preparing for battle. His crew worked around the clock, checking weapon systems, loading supplies, and running combat drills. As the Third Fleet prepared to leave Earth's solar system, Jake stood on his bridge one last time and looked at the blue marble that was humanity's home. He didn't know if he would ever see it again. The Vorth Empire had never been defeated. They had crushed every enemy they had ever faced, but they had never faced humans before. The USS Vengeance and her sister ships jumped into hyperspace, heading toward a war that would change the galaxy forever. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system, like ghosts appearing from the void. Commander Jake Morrison felt his stomach lurch as the USS Vengeance completed the jump. Around him, his crew quickly got to work, their hands moving across control panels as they brought all systems online. Status report, Jake ordered, settling into his command chair. All ships present and accounted for, sir. Lieutenant Amy Carter reported from her station. The Reaper, Stormbreaker, and 5 other vessels are in formation and ready for orders. Jake nodded and looked at the main view screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Zephyr system was a battlefield. Massive alien ships hung in space. Like dark metal mountains, their hulls scarred and blackened from combat. These were the Vorth warships, and they were huge beyond anything humanity had ever built. "My God," whispered Chief Engineer Katie Ross from her position at the engineering station. "Look at the size of those things." The Vorth fleet was arranged in a loose formation around the fourth planet in the system. That world was home to the last major Keplerian colony, and the enemy ships were bombarding it from orbit. Jake could see the bright flashes of energy weapons striking the planet's surface. Each blast was probably killing thousands of innocent people. "Count them," Jake ordered. Lieutenant Amy worked at her console. 12 heavy cruisers and 4 battleships. "Sir, the battleships are at least 3 times the size of the Vengeance." Captain Ryan Torres appeared on the communication screen from his ship, the USS Reaper. His face was grim. "Jake, we're looking at a lot of firepower. My tactical officer estimates each of those battleships has more guns than our entire fleet combined." Jake studied the enemy formation. The Vorth ships moved slowly and deliberately, like ancient predators that had never learned to fear anything. They were spread out across several thousand kilometers, taking their time with the bombardment. They clearly didn't expect any resistance. "What about their defenses?" Jake asked. Chief Engineer Ross ran her scans. "Heavy armor plating, multiple shield generators, and what looks like point defense systems. But sir, their ships are built for brute force attacks. They're not very maneuverable." Jake felt a spark of hope. Human ships were smaller and faster. Maybe they could use that advantage. "Amy, try to contact the planet. See if anyone down there can give us tactical information." Amy worked her radio equipment for several minutes. Finally, she shook her head. "I'm getting some weak signals, but most of the communication networks have been destroyed. What I can hear sounds like evacuation orders and casualty reports." A bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Jake stared at the enemy fleet on the screen. 16 ships against 8. The odds were terrible, but people were dying down on that planet while they watched. Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. "Sir, we've been detected," Amy reported. "The Vorth are hailing us." "Put them on screen." The view screen flickered, and Jake found himself looking at the ugliest creature he had ever seen. The Vorth commander was massive, with thick gray skin covered in natural armor plates. His head was huge and angular, with small red eyes that glowed with anger. When he spoke, his voice was like gravel being crushed. "I am General Krexthar of the Vorth Empire. You primitive mammals will withdraw from this system immediately, or you will be destroyed like all the others who have opposed us." Jake stood up from his chair. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel USS Vengeance. We are here to defend our allies. You are the ones who need to withdraw." General Krexthar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans. Yes, we have heard of you. The Deathworlders who crawled out of some toxic wasteland and think they can play with the real powers of the galaxy. We have crushed 17 civilizations, little mammal. Your pathetic fleet will be next." "We'll see about that," Jake replied. The screen went dark. Jake turned to his crew. "Battle stations. All ships, prepare for combat." The bridge transformed as his officers switched to combat mode. Red lights bathed everything in an eerie glow. Weapon systems came online with electronic hums and clicks. The main view screen changed to show tactical displays of both fleets. Captain Helen Wade's voice came through the communication system from the USS Stormbreaker. "Jake, I'm reading movement from the Vorth fleet. Looks like they're turning to engage us." Jake watched as the massive enemy ships slowly began to rotate in space. They moved like giant whales, powerful but not fast. It would take them several minutes to bring all their weapons to bear on the human fleet. "This is our chance," Jake said. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Use our speed advantage. Hit them before they can coordinate their fire." The human fleet split into two groups. The USS Vengeance, USS Reaper, and two other ships went left, while the USS Stormbreaker led the remaining vessels to the right. The plan was simple: divide the enemy's attention and strike from multiple angles. "Engines to maximum," Jake ordered. "Take us in fast and hard." The USS Vengeance leaped forward like a hunting cat. Around them, the other human ships did the same, their smaller size allowing them to accelerate much faster than the Vorth vessels. They closed the distance in minutes, weaving between the enemy ships like fighters dodging giants. "Target their weapons systems," Jake commanded. "Don't try to destroy them. Just disable their ability to fight back." The first exchange of fire lit up space like a fireworks display. The Vorth ships fired massive energy bolts that could have vaporized a small moon, but the human ships were too fast and too small. Most of the enemy fire missed completely. In return, the human ships fired concentrated bursts at specific targets. The USS Reaper, commanded by Captain Torres, executed a perfect attack run on one of the Vorth cruisers. Its weapons stripped away armor plating and knocked out several gun turrets. "They're not used to fighting fast opponents," observed Lieutenant Colonel Sam Parker, the fleet's Marine commander who was aboard the Vengeance, as an observer. "Look how they're trying to track us. They're always shooting where we were, not where we are." Jake smiled grimly. "Then let's give them something to really chase." The battle became a deadly dance. The human ships darted between the Vorth vessels, striking quickly, and then moving before the enemy could respond. The Vorth had superior firepower, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't catch. Captain Wade's voice crackled through the radio. "Jake, I'm seeing something interesting. The Vorth ships aren't working together very well. They're getting in each other's way." She was right. The Vorth had spread out for the planetary bombardment, and now they were too far apart to support each other effectively. When they tried to focus their fire on the human ships, they often ended up shooting at empty space or nearly hitting their own vessels. "They're overconfident," Jake realized. "They've never had to fight a real battle before. They're used to just overwhelming weaker opponents." The tide began to turn. The human ships, working together like a pack of wolves, managed to disable 3 Vorth cruisers and damage 2 others. The enemy tried to reform their battle line, but it was too late. The humans had gotten inside their formation and were causing chaos. Then General Krexthar made a crucial mistake. Frustrated by his inability to hit the human ships, he ordered his fleet to target the planet below. If he couldn't destroy the humans, he would finish killing the civilians they had come to protect. "All ships, new target," Krexthar's voice boomed across the radio frequencies. "Forget the mammals. Destroy the planet. Show them what happens when they oppose the Vorth Empire." Jake felt rage building in his chest. Attacking civilians was something no human could tolerate. Around him, his crew's faces hardened with determination. "That was a mistake," Jake said. Quietly, "Amy, open a channel to all ships." When the connection was established, Jake spoke with cold fury. "All human vessels, this is Commander Morrison. The enemy has just declared war on innocent civilians. No more games. No more careful targeting. Take these bastards down." The human fleet's attack pattern changed instantly. Instead of hit-and-run tactics, they went for the kill. The USS Vengeance led a direct assault on the Vorth flagship, its weapons blazing with concentrated fire. The other human ships followed suit, abandoning caution for pure aggression. General Krexthar's confident voice was replaced by confused shouting as his ship's defenses began to fail. For the first time in centuries, The Fourth Empire was facing an enemy that wouldn't back down, wouldn't surrender, and wouldn't show mercy to those who threatened innocent lives. The battle for Zephyr System had begun in earnest, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made an enemy of the Deathworlders from Earth. The space battle raged for 3 hours, but something was changing. The Fourth Empire's ships, which had seemed so powerful at first, were now struggling to keep up with the human fleet. Commander Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the USS Vengeance as another enemy cruiser lost power and began drifting helplessly through space. "Their formation is breaking apart," reported Lieutenant Amy Carter from her position at the communications station. "I'm picking up confused chatter from the Vorth ships. They're asking for new orders, but their commanders don't seem to know what to do." Jake nodded. The Vorth had never fought an enemy like this before. They were used to slow, predictable battles where they could use their superior size and firepower to crush their opponents. But human ships moved like lightning, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before the enemy could respond. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the USS Reaper," Amy continued. "Captain Torres is requesting permission to board the damaged fourth cruiser." Jake looked at the tactical display. One of the enemy ships was dead in space, its weapons offline and its hull cracked open in several places. "Tell him to proceed, but be careful. We don't know what kind of surprises they might have waiting." Within minutes, a small transport ship launched from the USS Reaper. Major Alex Stone led the boarding party, along with 20 of Earth's best Marines. Jake watched on the tactical screen as the transport docked with the crippled Vorth vessel. "Boarding. Party is inside the enemy ship," Amy reported. "Major Stone is transmitting live video." The main view screen switched to show the interior of the Vorth cruiser. Jake was amazed by what he saw. The corridors were huge, built for creatures much larger than humans. The walls were made of some kind of dark metal, and strange symbols were carved into every surface. Major Stone's voice came through the speakers, slightly distorted by his helmet radio. "This place is like a maze. The gravity is lighter than on Earth, and the air is thinner, but we can handle it." The Marines moved through the ship with practiced efficiency. They had trained for situations like this, but none of them had ever boarded an actual alien warship before. Jake held his breath as they turned a corner and came face to face with their first Vorth warrior. The alien was enormous, at least 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor plates. Its red eyes glowed with rage, and it carried a weapon that looked like it could punch through steel. But when it charged at the humans, something unexpected happened. Sergeant Nina Foster, one of Major Stone's best soldiers, simply stepped aside and let the alien run past her. The Vorth warrior was fast, but not as fast as a human who had grown. Up on Earth, Nina spun around and hit the alien in the back with a rifle butt, sending it crashing into the wall. "These things are big and strong," Nina reported over the radio, "but they're clumsy. It's like they've never had to really fight before." More Vorth warriors appeared, and a fierce battle erupted in the corridors of the alien ship. But the humans had advantages that nobody had expected. They were faster, more agile, and they could think on their feet in ways that the Vorth couldn't match. Dr. Chris Andrews, the fleet's scientist, was watching the battle from the USS Vengeance. "This is fascinating," he told Jake. "The Vorth evolved on a world with lighter gravity and thinner air. They're physically strong, but they don't have the endurance that humans do." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Earth is a death world, Doctor," Andrews explained. "Our planet has higher gravity, more atmospheric pressure, and more radiation than most inhabited worlds. Humans evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most other species. We're basically walking tanks compared to these aliens." On the screen, the human Marines were proving Dr. Andrews right. They fought continuously for over an hour, moving through the Vorth ship like a force of nature. The alien warriors, despite their size and armor, began to tire and slow down. But the humans kept going, their Earth-trained bodies handling the stress of combat with ease. Major Stone's team reached the bridge of the Vorth cruiser, where they found the ship's captain. The alien officer was huge, even by Vorth standards, with scars covering his armor plates. He stood behind a massive command chair, holding a weapon that crackling with energy. "I am Captain Vexmer of the Vorth Empire," the alien announced in broken English. "You mammals will surrender or die." Major Stone stepped forward, his rifle ready. "We're here to stop you from killing innocent people. Surrender, and we'll treat you fairly." Captain Vexmer laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The Vorth Empire does not surrender to inferior species. We have conquered 17 worlds. We are the masters of this galaxy." "Not anymore," Major Stone replied. The fight that followed was brutal but brief. Captain Vexmer was strong and experienced, but he had never fought an opponent like Major Stone. The human had grown up on a world where everything was trying to kill him, from the weather to the wildlife. He moved with a speed and precision that the Vorth captain couldn't match. Within minutes, Captain Vexmer was on the ground, his weapon destroyed and his armor cracked. Major Stone stood over him, breathing hard but still ready to fight. "Impossible," the alien gasped. "You are just mammals, just primitives from a single world. How can you be so strong?" "We're not just from any world," Major Stone replied. "We're from Earth, and on Earth only the strong survive." The boarding action was a complete success. The human Marines captured the entire Vorth cruiser, along with its crew and all its data files. Dr. Andrews immediately began studying the alien technology, while intelligence officers downloaded the ship's computer records. Meanwhile, a space battle was turning into a rout. The Vorth fleet, seeing one of their ships captured and several others disabled, began to retreat. General Krexthar's flagship was badly damaged, its hull scarred by human weapons. "The enemy is trying to withdraw," reported Captain Helen Wade from the USS Stormbreaker. "Should we pursue them?" Jake considered the options. The human fleet had won a great victory, but they were still outnumbered. The Vorth might be retreating now, but they would probably come back with reinforcements. "Let them go for now," Jake decided. "We need to regroup and figure out our next move." But General Krexthar had one more card to play. As his ships retreated, he sent a transmission to the human fleet. His ugly face appeared on every screen, twisted with rage and hatred. "You have won today, mammals," he snarled. "But this is not over. The Vorth Empire has thousands of ships. We will return with a force that will crush your pathetic fleet and burn your home world to ash." "We'll be ready," Jake replied calmly. General Krexthar's expression changed to confusion. "You do not understand. We have never been defeated before. Ever. What you have done today is impossible. Maybe you've never fought Deathworlders before." Jake said. The transmission ended, and the Vorth fleet limped away into hyperspace. Human ships were left alone in the Zephyr system, victorious, but knowing that the real war was just beginning. Dr. Andrews approached Jake on the bridge, carrying a tablet full of data from the captured Vorth ship. "Commander, you need to see this. I've been analyzing their military records, and I think I know why they're so shocked by our victory." "What did you find?" "The Vorth have been using the same tactics for over 1,000 years. They show up at a world, demand surrender, and then bombard it from orbit if the inhabitants refuse. They've never had to adapt or change their strategy because nothing has ever worked against them." Jake looked at the tactical display, where the human ships were forming up for patrol duty. "Until now, exactly. They don't know how to fight an enemy that can match their strength and exceed their speed. They're like a boxer who has never been hit suddenly facing someone who can hit back. Lieutenant Amy Carter interrupted from her station. Sir, we're receiving transmissions from the planet below. The Keplerian survivors are thanking us for saving them. They're also reporting something interesting. What is it? Word of our victory is spreading through the galaxy. Other species that have been oppressed by the Vorth are starting to rebel. There are uprisings on at least 6 worlds. Jake felt a surge of hope. Maybe humanity's small fleet could do more than just win battles. Maybe they could inspire others to fight for their freedom. Set course for the nearest Vorth supply base, Jake ordered. If we're going to war with the Vorth Empire, we need to hit them where it hurts. The USS Vengeance and her sister ships turned toward deep space, carrying with them the hopes of an entire galaxy. The Deathworlders from Earth had proven that the mighty Vorth Empire could be beaten. Now it was time to show them what happened when you made enemies of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. 3 days after the victory at Zephyr System, Admiral Lisa Bennett arrived with the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled. Commander Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the USS Vengeance as ship after ship dropped out of hyperspace. The massive carrier USS Liberty led the formation, followed by 19 other warships carrying thousands of Marines and enough firepower to level the planet. My God, whispered Lieutenant Amy Carter as she counted the new arrivals. I've never seen so many human ships in one place. Jake felt a mix of pride and worry as he looked at the fleet. Earth had committed almost everything to this war. If they lost, there would be nothing left to defend their home world. Admiral Bennett's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. Jake, excellent work here. Your victory has changed everything. Half the galaxy is talking about the humans who defeated the Vorth Empire. Thank you, ma'am. What are our new orders? We're going on the offensive. Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Ben Rogers has been studying the data you captured from that Vorth ship. Ben, show him what you found. A young man with thick glasses appeared on the screen next to Admiral Bennett. Commander Morrison, the Vorth Empire is not as strong as everyone thinks. They control a lot of space, but they only have a few dozen major military bases. Most of their territory is held together by fear, not actual military presence. Jake leaned forward in his chair. What does that mean for us? It means we can hurt them badly if we hit the right targets. The Vorth have 3 main supply bases that feed their entire war machine. If we destroy those bases, their fleet won't be able to operate for very long. Admiral Bennett nodded. We're splitting into 3 task forces. Each one will hit a different supply base at the same time. Captain Greg Sullivan will command the USS Liberty and attack the base at Korvax Prime. Captain Torres will take the USS Reaper and hit the depot at Terminus Station. You'll lead the assault on their main supply hub at Vorth Minor. Jake studied the tactical information that appeared on his screen. Vorth Minor was heavily defended, with orbital weapons platforms and a large garrison. It would be a tough fight. How many ships will I have? 8, including the Vengeance. Major Stone's Marines will spearhead the ground assault while you handle this space battle. The briefing continued for another hour, covering every detail of the planned attacks. When it was over, Jake returned to his ship to prepare his crew for their most dangerous mission yet. 2 days later, the human task force dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vorth Minor system. Jake immediately saw why this base was so important to the enemy. The system contained 4 industrial planets, each one covered with factories and shipyards. Massive cargo ships moved between the worlds, carrying supplies to Vorth fleets across the galaxy. Contact, reported Lieutenant Amy Carter. I'm reading 15 Vorth warships in defensive positions around the main planet. Plus, there are orbital defense platforms with enough firepower to stop a fleet twice our size. Jake studied the enemy formation on his tactical display. The Vorth had learned from their defeat at Zephyr system. Their ships were positioned to support each other, and they had arranged their defenses to prevent the hit-and-run tactics that had worked so well before. "They're adapting," observed Chief Engineer Katie Ross. "But they're still thinking like the old Vorth Empire. They expect us to attack head-on." Jake smiled. "Then let's give them something they don't expect. Amy, open a channel to all ships." "When?" The connection was established. Jake addressed his fleet. "All vessels, this is Commander Morrison. The enemy is ready for a conventional attack, so we're not going to give them one. Execute Plan Gamma. Let's show them what creativity looks like." The human ships scattered in all directions, confusing the Vorth defenders. Instead of attacking the heavily defended main planet, they went after the cargo ships and industrial facilities. The USS Stormbreaker, commanded by Captain Helen Wade, led a lightning strike against a convoy of supply vessels. The USS Reapers, sister ship, the USS Phantom, attacked a shipyard on the second planet. The Vorth fleet tried to respond, but they couldn't be everywhere at once. Their commanders had prepared for a direct assault, not for the chaotic multi-front attack that the humans were conducting. "The enemy is splitting their forces," reported Amy. "They're trying to defend everything and ending up defending nothing effectively." Jake watched as his plan unfolded. The human ships were like wolves attacking a herd, picking off isolated targets while avoiding the main defensive force. Within an hour, they had destroyed dozens of cargo ships and crippled 2 major industrial complexes. But the real surprise came when Major Stone's Marines launched their assault on the main planet. Instead of attacking the heavily fortified military base, they targeted the planet's power grid and communication networks. The idea was simple: blind the enemy and cut off their ability to coordinate their defenses. "This is brilliant," said Dr. Chris Andrews, who was monitoring the assault from the USS Vengeance. "The Vorth have never faced psychological warfare before. They don't know how to respond when their command structure breaks down." The human Marines, trained in guerrilla tactics and small unit operations, moved through the planet's cities like ghosts. They sabotaged power plants, destroyed communication towers, and captured key transportation hubs. The Vorth garrison, designed to fight large battles, couldn't adapt to this new kind of warfare. Sergeant Nina Foster led a team that infiltrated the main command center. Instead of destroying it, they hacked into the computer systems and began broadcasting false orders to the Vorth fleet. The enemy ships received contradictory commands and started moving in random directions. "The Vorth fleet is in complete chaos," Amy reported from her station. "Half their ships are trying to attack us, and the other half are trying to defend targets that aren't even under attack." Jake seized the opportunity. "All ships, focus fire on the orbital defense platforms. Take them out while the enemy is confused." The human fleet converged on the massive weapons platforms that guarded the main planet. Without proper coordination from the planet's surface, the platforms couldn't track the fast-moving human ships effectively. One by one, they were destroyed or disabled. Captain Wade's voice came through the radio from the USS Stormbreaker. "Jake, we've got a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting a Vorth relief force heading this way. At least 20 ships, including some we haven't seen before." Jake checked his tactical display. The relief force would arrive in less than 2 hours. His fleet had done a lot of damage, but they weren't finished with their mission yet. "How much longer do you need, Major Stone?" Jake asked over the radio. Major Stone's voice was calm, despite the sound of explosions in the background. "Give me 30 more minutes. We're almost done here." Jake made a decision that would have surprised the old Vorth Empire. Instead of retreating, in the face of superior numbers, he chose to stay and fight. The humans had learned something important in their first battle. The Vorth were not invincible. They were just bullies who had never faced real opposition. All ships, prepare for round 2. The Vorth are sending reinforcements, which means we're hurting them. Let's make sure they remember this day. The human fleet regrouped around the main planet, using the orbital debris from the destroyed defense platforms as cover. They had taken some damage, but nothing critical. More importantly, they had accomplished their main objective. The supply base was crippled and would take months to repair. When the Vorth relief force arrived, they found a very different situation than they expected. Instead of human ships fleeing, in panic, they encountered a disciplined fleet ready for battle. The humans had used their time wisely, setting up ambush positions and coordinating their tactics. The second battle was even more one-sided than the first. The Vorth relief force, expecting to fight demoralized enemies, instead faced confident warriors who had already proven they could win. The human ships moved with precision and purpose, their crews working together like parts of a single machine. Admiral Thurak, the Vorth commander leading the relief force, tried the same intimidation tactics that had worked for centuries. He broadcast threats about the consequences of opposing the Vorth Empire and demanded immediate surrender. Jake's response was simple and direct. This is Commander Morrison of the Earth Fleet. Your supply base is destroyed. Your garrison is defeated. If you want to avoid more losses, you should withdraw now. Admiral Thurak was so shocked by this response that he actually paused his attack. No one had ever spoken to a Vorth commander like that before. In that moment of hesitation, the human fleet struck with devastating effect. The battle lasted only 90 minutes. When it was over, the Vorth relief force was in full retreat, leaving behind 5 destroyed ships and 3 more so badly damaged they would never fight again. The humans had lost no ships and suffered only minor casualties. As the USS Vengeance and her sister ships prepared to leave the Vorth minor system, Jake received reports from the other task forces. Captain Sullivan had successfully destroyed the base at Korvax Prime, while Captain Torres had captured the depot at Terminus Station, along with its entire garrison. The massive human fleet hung in space like a cloud of metal sharks, waiting at the edge of the Vorth homeworld system. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Vengeance, now serving as Admiral Bennett's flagship for the final assault. Around them, 37 Earth warships prepared for the biggest battle in human history. Final status report, Admiral Bennett ordered from her command chair. All ships ready for combat, reported Captain Greg Sullivan from the USS Liberty. Fighter squadrons are armed and standing by. Marine assault teams are loaded and ready for deployment. Jake studied the tactical display showing the Vorth homeworld. The planet was surrounded by the largest defensive fleet he had ever seen. 68 enemy warships formed multiple layers of protection around their capital world. Massive orbital defense stations bristled with weapons that could destroy a ship with a single shot. Intelligence estimates? Admiral Bennett asked. Lieutenant. Ben Rogers checked his tablet. Over 200 million Vorth military personnel in the system. The homeworld itself has a population of nearly 8 billion. This is everything they have left, ma'am. If we win here, the war is over. Amy Carter looked up from her communication station. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's Emperor Vorth Khan himself. The main screen flickered, and Jake found himself looking at the most terrifying alien he had ever seen. Emperor Vorth Khan was enormous, even by Vorth standards. His natural armor was decorated with the bones of defeated enemies, and his red eyes burned with hatred that had lasted for centuries. So, the mammals have come to die at the heart of our empire, the Emperor said, his voice like thunder. I am Vorth Khan, ruler of 17 star systems, destroyer of 43 worlds, emperor of the greatest military force in galactic history. You will surrender now, or I will make your deaths last for years." Admiral Bennett stood up. "This is Admiral Lisa Bennett of the Earth Defense Force. We're here to end your reign of terror. Surrender now, and we'll treat your people fairly." "Emperor." Vorth Khan laughed, a sound that made everyone on the bridge shiver. "Treat us fairly? We are the masters of this galaxy. We have been conquering worlds since before your species learned to make fire. What can a handful of mammals do against the might of the Vorth Empire? We've already destroyed 3 of your supply bases and defeated your fleets at 6 different systems." Admiral Bennett replied calmly. "Your empire is falling apart. This is your last chance to end this peacefully." The Emperor's expression changed to pure rage. "Impossible. No species has ever defeated the Vorth in open battle. You are lying." "Check with your surviving commanders," Jake suggested. "Ask them about Zephyr System, or Korvax Prime, or the dozen other worlds that have declared independence from your empire." Emperor Vorth Khan's face twisted with fury as he realized the humans were telling the truth. "It does not matter. This is our homeworld. We have defenses here that will crush your pathetic fleet. You will learn why the Vorth Empire has never been defeated on our own soil." The transmission ended, and alarms immediately began ringing throughout the human fleet. The Vorth defensive fleet was moving to attack, their massive ships advancing in a formation that had intimidated enemies for 1,000 years. "All ships, battle stations," Admiral Bennett ordered. "Execute Plan Omega. Let's show them how this war ends." The human fleet split into 3 groups, each one attacking from a different direction. Jake commanded the center group, which included the USS Vengeance and 8 other ships. Their job was to draw the attention of the main Vorth fleet. Wow. The other groups attacked the orbital defense stations. "Here they come," Amy reported. 24 Vorth battleships heading straight for us. Jake watched as the enemy ships approached. They were moving in the same tight formation that had worked for centuries, relying on concentrated firepower to overwhelm their opponents. But the humans had learned something important during this war. The Vorth never changed their tactics. "All ships, execute Maneuver 7, Jake ordered. The human ships suddenly scattered in all directions, forcing the Vorth fleet to split up if they wanted to engage them. It was the same tactic that had worked at Zephyr System, but now the humans had refined it to perfection. Captain Helen Wade's voice came through the radio from the USS Stormbreaker. "Jake, we're in position. The orbital stations are targeting us, but we're too fast for their main guns." Meanwhile, Captain Sullivan was leading the USS Liberty and its fighter squadrons against the enemy's left flank. Commander Lisa Park, the fleet's best pilot, led Squadron Alpha in a daring attack on the defense grid's control center. "This is Alpha Leader," Lisa's voice crackled through the radio. "We're taking heavy fire, but the defenses are old and slow. These things haven't been upgraded in decades." Dr. Chris Andrews, monitoring the battle from his position on the USS Vengeance, made an important observation. "Admiral, the Vorth are making a critical mistake. They're fighting this like all their previous battles, but we're not like their previous enemies." "What do you mean?" Admiral Bennett asked. "Look at their formation. They're still trying to use overwhelming force in a direct confrontation. But we're faster, more maneuverable, and we can coordinate our attacks in ways they've never seen before." Jake watched as the battle developed exactly as Dr. Andrews predicted. The Vorth ships were powerful individually, but they couldn't work together effectively. When they tried to focus their fire on one human ship, 3 others would attack them from different angles. The turning point came when Major Tony Clark's Marines successfully infiltrated one of the orbital defense stations. Instead of destroying it, they turned its massive guns against the Vorth fleet. The sight of their own weapons firing at them caused panic among the enemy ships. "The Vorth fleet is breaking formation. Amy reported excitedly. Several ships are trying to retreat, but others are still attacking. They're not coordinating their movements anymore. Emperor Vorth Khan's voice suddenly boomed across all radio frequencies. All ships, focus on the human flagship. Destroy the ship with their leader. Immediately, a dozen Vorth battleships turned toward the USS Vengeance. Their combined firepower was enough to vaporize a small moon, and they all fired at once. But Jake had been expecting this. Emergency maneuvers, he shouted. The USS Vengeance dove toward the planet's surface, using the gravity well to increase its speed. The Vorth ships followed, but they were too big and clumsy to match the human ship's agility. Take us into the asteroid belt, Jake ordered. Chief Engineer Katie Ross looked worried. Sir, that's extremely dangerous. One collision could destroy us. It's more dangerous for them, Jake replied, pointing at the pursuing Vorth ships. The chase through the asteroid belt became a deadly game of cat and mouse. The USS Vengeance weaved between the floating rocks with incredible skill, while the massive Vorth ships struggled to follow. One by one, the enemy vessels collided with asteroids or got caught in gravitational fields. When the USS Vengeance emerged from the asteroid belt, only 3 Vorth ships were still pursuing. Jake led them straight into a trap where the USS Reaper and USS Stormbreaker were waiting. The ambush was perfect, and all 3 enemy ships were destroyed within minutes. Meanwhile, the rest of the human fleet was systematically dismantling the Vorth defenses. The orbital stations fell one by one, their ancient weapons no match for human speed and tactics. The enemy fleet, leaderless and confused, began to surrender in groups. The final blow came when Sergeant Nina Foster's demolition team successfully planted explosives on the Dominator, Emperor Vorth Khan's personal fortress ship. The massive vessel had been the symbol of Vorth power for over 500 years. This is for everyone you've killed, Nina said over the radio as she triggered. The charges, the explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the Dominator was gone, and with it, the last hope of the Vorth Empire. Emperor Vorth Khan's voice came through the radio one final time, and now it was weak and defeated. How? How is this possible? We are the Vorth. We are the masters of the galaxy. How can a single world defeat an empire that has lasted for 1,000 years? Admiral Bennett's response was simple and direct. Because we're not fighting for conquest or glory. We're fighting to protect innocent people. And when humans fight for something they believe in, we don't lose. The battle for the Vorth homeworld was over. The most powerful military empire in galactic history had been defeated by a species that had only been in space for a few decades. But as Jake looked at the surrendering enemy ships on his tactical display, he knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to change in ways that no one could predict, and Earth would be at the center of it all. The age of the Vorth Empire was ending, and the age of human protection was about to begin. 6 months after the fall of the Vorth Empire, Commander Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of the massive space station that orbited the former enemy homeworld. The planet below looked peaceful now, its cities rebuilding under human protection. It was hard to believe that this same world had once been the center of galactic terror. The reconstruction is going faster than we expected, reported Captain Ryan Torres, who had been promoted to admiral after his heroic actions during the war. The Vorth civilians are actually helping us. Turns out most of them were just as afraid of their own military as everyone else was. Jake nodded, watching transport ships move between the planet and the orbital stations. Earth's engineers were working alongside former Vorth workers to convert weapons factories into civilian manufacturing plants. It was a sight that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. Admiral Lisa Bennett approached from across the observation deck, carrying a tablet full of reports. Jake, we need to talk about the bigger picture. The galaxy has changed completely since we defeated the Vorth. 47 worlds have asked to join our protection alliance. That's more than we can handle with our current fleet. What are you thinking? Jake asked. We need to expand, but not the way the Vorth did. We're not going to conquer anyone. Instead, we're going to help other species build their own defenses and teach them to work together. Captain Helen Wade joined the conversation, her face showing the tiredness that came from months of peacekeeping duties. The Keplerian Consortium has already started building their own defense fleet using human designs. Ambassador Zithkar says they want to be partners, not dependents. Jake smiled at that news. The crystalline being who had first asked for Earth's help had become one of their closest allies. The Keplerian worlds were now thriving, their trade routes protected by a mix of human and Keplerian ships. What about the former Vorth territories? Jake asked. Admiral Bennett checked her tablet. That's where things get interesting. 23 worlds have declared independence and are setting up their own governments. Most of them are asking for human advisors to help them transition from military rule to civilian control. Dr. Chris Andrews walked up to the group, carrying his own set of reports. From a scientific perspective, this is fascinating. We're seeing the birth of dozens of new civilizations. Species that were suppressed for centuries are rediscovering their own cultures and technologies. The conversation was interrupted by Lieutenant Amy Carter's voice over the station's communication system. Admiral Bennett, please report to the command center. We have an urgent transmission from Earth. The group made their way to the command center, where Amy was working at a massive communications console, surrounded by screens showing star maps and fleet positions. She looked excited as she handed Admiral Bennett a datapad. Ma'am, this message is from the Galactic Council. They want to meet with us. Jake raised an eyebrow. The Galactic Council? I thought that was just a myth. Apparently not, Amy replied. According to this message, the Council is made up of the oldest and most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They've been watching our war with the Vorth from a distance. Admiral Bennett read the message carefully. They want to discuss Earth's role in galactic affairs. They're proposing something called the Terran Defense Initiative. Dr. Andrews leaned forward with interest. What exactly is that? A formal peacekeeping organization with Earth at its center. We would coordinate defense efforts across multiple sectors, help resolve conflicts, and protect smaller worlds from aggressive empires. Jake felt a mix of pride and worry. That's a big responsibility. Are we ready for something like that? Before Admiral Bennett could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Amy quickly checked her instruments. We have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Unknown configuration. The main view screen lit up, showing 3 massive vessels unlike anything Jake had ever seen. They were sleek and elegant, with hulls that seemed to shimmer with their own light. These ships were clearly built by a civilization far more advanced than either Earth or the Vorth. This is the vessel Harmony's Edge, came a voice over the radio. The translator made it sound musical, almost like singing. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We request permission to come aboard your station. Admiral Bennett looked around at her officers. Well, I guess we're meeting them sooner than expected. Grant them permission to dock. An hour later, Jake found himself in the station's main conference room, facing the strangest group of beings he had ever seen. The Galactic Council's delegation included a creature made of living energy, a being that looked like a walking tree, and something that appeared to be a collection of floating crystals that spoke in harmonic tones. The energy being, who called itself Luminex, served as the spokesperson. Humans of Earth, we have watched your recent actions with great interest. In 300 years of observing galactic affairs, we have never seen a species defeat the Vorth Empire. We had help, Admiral Bennett replied diplomatically. Our allies from the Keplerian Consortium fought bravely alongside us. The tree-like being, named Verdant rustled its leaves in what might have been laughter. Modesty is admirable, but unnecessary. Your species accomplished something that elder civilizations thought impossible. More importantly, you did it. For the right reasons. Jake leaned forward. What do you mean? The crystal entity, called resonance, chimed softly before speaking. Most species that develop the power to defeat empires like the Vorth immediately become conquerors themselves. It is a pattern we have seen repeatedly throughout galactic history. But you have chosen a different path. Luminex's energy form pulsed. Brighter. Instead of replacing the Vorth Empire with your own, you are helping former subject worlds become independent. Instead of demanding tribute, you are offering protection. This is why the Council wishes to formalize your role as galactic peacekeepers. Admiral Bennett studied the alien representatives carefully. What exactly are you proposing? The Terran Defense Initiative, Verdant explained. Earth would coordinate defense efforts for this entire galactic sector. You would have access to advanced technologies and the support of Council member worlds. In return, you would respond to threats and help maintain peace. Jake thought about everything that had happened since they first received the distress signal from the Keplerian worlds. What about species that don't want our protection? They would be free to refuse, Resonance chimed. The initiative would only operate where invited. We have learned that forced peace is no peace at all. The negotiations continued for several hours, covering everything from technology sharing to rules of engagement. When they were finished, Earth had officially become the center of a new galactic peacekeeping organization. Admiral Bennett was promoted to Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Initiative, while Jake received command of the new flagship, a massive vessel called the USS Guardian that incorporated both human and Council technologies. As the Council representatives prepared to leave, Luminex approached Jake privately. There is something you should know, Commander Morrison. The Vorth Empire was not the greatest threat this galaxy has faced. There are darker powers in the Outer Rim, ancient evils that even we fear to confront directly. Are you saying we'll have to fight them eventually? Perhaps. But if that day comes, the galaxy will be ready. The Deathworlders from Earth have shown that even the most terrible enemies can be defeated by those who fight for others rather than themselves. 6 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the USS Guardian as it patrolled the outer edge of human-protected space. The ship was a marvel of combined human and alien technology, faster and more powerful than anything the Vorth had ever built. Lieutenant Amy Carter, now serving as his communications officer, looked up from her station with excitement. Sir, we are receiving multiple distress signals from the Andromeda sector. It looks like something is attacking the independent worlds out there. Jake settled into his captain's chair, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with protecting dozens of civilizations. Set course for Andromeda. Maximum speed. All ships, this is the USS Guardian, he announced to the fleet that surrounded them. We have people who need our help. Let's show them what the Terran Defense Initiative can do. As the massive fleet jumped into hyperspace, Jake reflected on how much had changed since that first distress signal from the Keplerian worlds. Earth had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of hope. And wherever innocent people needed protection from those who would harm them, the Deathworlders from Earth would be ready to answer the call. The age of the Vorth Empire was over. The age of galactic peace, protected by humanity's strength and guided by their compassion, had begun.